Oh, my tire alert's going off. 35. Showing 38. Let's lower it down. It's out of the range, I guess. I don't know. Let's see about this tire. Funny thing with my tire sensor, it seems like tire pressure sensor, it seems like if the pressure is far out of range, it just goes bonkers, because it was showing me 22 psi in the back right, and I checked it was 38. So it was too inflated, not underinflated. So I let out some of the air, so lowering the pressure, and now the reading has gone up. So it now says 24. So when it was 38, it was showing me 22. Now that it's 35, it's showing me 24. So at least it's going closer to accurate, even though it's going in the wrong direction, because I let out air, not increased air. Anyway, I made a post on my community tab. I was talking about anyone talking about the word woke. This is not the best lighting at all. Holy moly. I don't know how this is gonna look, but whatever. So I said whoever's using the word woke, I have little respect for you in terms of being an adult. I talked about this many times. I don't think any adult should be complaining about woke, right? The use of that word by adults is embarrassing. And I'm not sure. One of my top subscribers, Danny, made a reference to something kind of ridiculous. He talked about if they made a movie about Einstein and they play his character, you know, with a black woman, then he would complain. So I figured I would elaborate a little bit more about why I think it's childish for grown adults to be talking about woke. The word woke used today, it is something that was manufactured by right-wing grifters, parasites, propagandists, whatever you want to call it. They make a lot of money by targeting a very childish audience that wants to see the type of childish content you see like on Ben Shapiro's channel, right? Blowing up a dollhouse and going to Home Depot with one piece of wood and taking a picture. Oh, look at me, I got some wood. You know, just nonsense, right? Complaining about Aunt Jemima, you know, pancake syrup and M&M, look at the M&M thing, right? That type of content is not gonna appeal to adults, right? This is very childish content that it is targeting either children, very young people, or childlike people. Right? Adults are not interested in that kind of nonsense, right? They're too busy living their lives, dealing with responsibilities of being an adult, your job, your family, your career. That's what adults are worried about. They're not worried about M&Ms, right? And the kind of stuff that he's complaining about, like Little Mermaid. Adults are not watching Little Mermaid, right? They might not even be aware that Little Mermaid came out. Now, even if you have kids, I don't think an adult is worried about the skin color of the character in Little Mermaid, because they realize the child watching this movie, it's meaningless, right? It'll be one thing if you want to say Disney makes a movie and then there's two women kissing and that goes against your religion or something like that. But I would hope that there's nothing against your religion or whatever for the Little Mermaid to be played by a woman with a different skin color, right? So the main issue would be for you as an adult, maybe you watched as a child and you don't appreciate them changing up the character, but the movie's not for you, right? So as an adult, you're not worried about that. Now, if they're doing it in movies that you're watching, that's at least the minimum bar. It's got to be an adult movie, right? Something that you're watching and that you're bothered by, right? Like maybe I'm a Superman fan, right? And they might pick someone to play Superman who I think betrays what Superman stood for. Like maybe the guy in real life is a real, you know, jerk off and he had a criminal past or whatever, and Superman's supposed to be a good guy, and they pick this guy, and it's not just his real life, you know, whatever he is, he also has the look of a criminal. And it's just like, who loved that as a child and still enjoys it as an adult watching Superman movies, you know, I might be like, okay, what's up with this? But what you're not gonna see me doing is worrying about stuff like that in stuff that's targeting children, right? Now, again, if they're doing things that you know, I could see you might have a problem with in terms of your children seeing this. I don't want my children to see this. That's different. But why wouldn't you want your children to see a Little Mermaid movie with a woman with a different skin color? I mean, that's not going to have any impact on them. They're not going to grow up and think that, you know, mermaids are black. You know, I mean, there's nothing substantive that would come from that. Now, if the movie shows cursing or behaviors that you're against, that's different. But why would you be against your child seeing the character played by a different skin color, right? So you shouldn't be all into children's movies. And then if you are into children's movies, it's in the context of protecting your children from seeing things that you think is harmful. What's harmful about Little Mermaid being played by somebody with brown skin? Nothing, right? So the reason why I say it's childish to complain about wokeness is if it wasn't for right-wing media creating this red meat for the childlike audience that they target, then perhaps it would be more appropriate for you to talk about woke stuff. Right, whatever that means to you. The problem is a bunch of, what do you call those clowns that go to the, children's birthday parties or whatever. A bunch of people who are like that. Like Ben Shapiro. That's what he does for a living. Grown-ass man for a living. Goes around to a bunch of children's birthday parties and acts a fool, right? So the only people worried about what he's talking about should be the children that he targets, right? The childlike mentality people that he targets, right? When the clown comes to the children's birthday party, the adults are not concerned about he's wearing the wrong shoe. My goodness, what kind of a shirt is that he's wearing? You know, the rhyme that he said, that's an old rhyme, and the new, that's what children do, right? Children are the ones into children entertainment, and they will complain about, you know, departures from what they feel is accurate. Clowns are supposed to be tall, this guy's short. Clowns are supposed to be short, this guy's tall. That's kids, right? You have a Santa Claus at a mall, right? It's the kids that will go in and say, Santa Claus doesn't have a brown beard, his beard is white. Adults don't give a fuck, right? As long as you're not some pervy guy, right? You're not doing anything inappropriate. You're showing up on time. You're doing what people expect from a Santa Claus in a mall. They don't care he's wearing the wrong shoes. Santa's wearing sneakers. How dare he? That's for the kids to worry about, right? Adults don't give a fuck that the Santa Claus in the supermarket or wherever is wearing sneakers, right? Now, if he shows up in a bikini, now we got something to talk about, right? Children worry about and focus on children things, right? Adults only get involved in things that are designed for children when the content is potentially harmful to children. How is it that a movie with a brown-skinned character playing the mermaid could be harmful in any way to a child, right? Now, people try to move the goalposts and talk about other quote-unquote woke stuff they do in the movie, and that's a different conversation. But a lot of times when they talk about woke stuff, it's nonsense. It's nothing that is of any relevance or should be of any relevance to any adults, because as long as the kids are having a good time and there's nothing harmful that they're being exposed to, as adults, we're good, right? We're busy balancing our checkbooks, right? We're busy worried about how we gonna pay the mortgage. We're busy worried about trying to get that raise. We're busy worried about we gotta go get some groceries. My goodness, when am I gonna have enough money to do that transmission job? How long is it gonna be before the transmission gives out? That's what adults are worried about. How much money do we have saved in the bank account because we're trying to go on a little vacation? It's tough, it's tight, but we think the kids deserve it. We work hard. We trying to go to Disney or wherever you're trying to go to. I should have said Disney. Trigger word. Anyway, that's what adults are worried about, right? When I started this video, what was I worried about? I want to make sure I'm being safe. I'm about to be on the highway. My car's telling me my tires are low. I want to make sure my tires are good. I want my tire to blow out, right? That's what I'm focused on. I'm not worried about M&Ms and syrup, right? So the analogy that I gave Danny, and I'll give it to you guys, is if I walk around in a ghost costume, right? And I'm going, woo, right? The only people afraid of me should be children or people with childlike minds. I look at it in the same way, right? This woke thing is designed for children and childlike mentality people. So only the target audience should be worried about, focused on, and talking about woke stuff, right? Only the children should be talking about, there's a ghost, look at that guy, he's a ghost, right? All the adults are shaking their head saying, look at that fool in that ghost costume, how ridiculous, right? They're not running scared, right? And some might say I'm being contradictory, and I am being a little bit contradictory, but I'm actually being a little bit inaccurate, because adults, if you see a person in a ghost costume, you're not worried about what they're doing, right? You're trying to get to work, you're trying to get to the store, you about your business, man. So you don't care about some guy in a ghost costume. Now, if your kid is like, hey, look at the ghost, you know, you might play along, but you ain't worried about that. And case in point, when you get home, you're not about to go talk to your friends, hey man, I saw this ghost in the mall. You're not gonna mention it. In that moment, if your kid is like, that ghost, you know, you might be like, yeah, that's a ghost, right? In that moment. But once that moment ends, that's it. You know who's gonna be talking about it after that? The child. Hey Mikey, we were at the mall, we saw a ghost. The child is the one who is all, right? Adults don't give a fuck about a man in a ghost costume, because we know it's a man in a ghost costume. We're not falling for the games. Adults know the game that Ben Shapiro is playing, right? And we're not interested, right? We're not interested in engaging in that game. We might call him out for being childish and foolish and deceptive, but we're not gonna engage in the game that he's playing. Just like how, you know, folks on the right talk about a man who talk about he's a woman, he's delusional, and I'm not gonna engage in this fantasy, right? Something's wrong with them, but well, as an adult, I refuse to engage in nonsense. I know people like Ben Shapiro being ridiculous, and I know the people who are falling for it are ridiculous people, but I ain't got time. I don't have time to be engaged and worried about nonsense. I have business to take care of. That is what it is to be adults, right? These people say, you know, the left doesn't know what a woman is. Well, there's two things they don't know what is. They don't know what a man is because not a lot of men, in terms of right-wing influencers, these are not men, these are boys, right? So they don't know what a man is. And also things like personal responsibility, they only know about that for other people, not for themselves, right? Very childish, man. You act a fool, and then when you know, and the consequences come up, you don't want to face the consequences, right? That's childishness. They also don't know what an adult is, and I guess it's kind of redundant, a man is an adult, but just in general, the concept of an adult, right? Very childish content targeting people. Man, those bandits are out today. They're trying to get their money. State police. Shoot, I don't even have my radar detector on. Wow. So in my view, if you're an adult and you see something that might be somehow categorized as woke, I think as an adult, recognizing the childish game being played, that word is a childish word targeted for children, I think as an adult, you would at least find a different word to use, right? Because you don't want to be associated with childishness. If you see something that you think legit is a problem, right? Like, let's say case in point. Imagine they make a Batman movie, right? And they want to, give a nod to black people or something. So the entire movie is all black people, not just Batman, everybody, right? And it's not like a new Batman or a re-envisioned Batman. It's just supposed to be Batman, but everybody just so happens to be black, right?
Continue on I-87 South
That
New
itself
York Freeway.
is not the problem, but let's say on top of that, the acting is horrific. Now, I'm not saying black people can't act, but because of the stipulation that we wanted everybody to be black, right? They ended up hiring a bunch of people who didn't necessarily have any skills because the priority was we wanted it to be all brown-skinned people, right? So horrible movie. I'm talking about atrocious acting. I'm not talking about sometimes people get caught up in this anti-woke stuff, so they will be, sometimes movies just suck. It doesn't have to be woke stuff, right? So maybe you didn't particularly like the acting, but I'm talking about this was horrific, right? Just really bad. Just because they were just, anybody black, they were hiring them, right? If that were to happen, I could see where you could be like, okay, it's a little bit much. And again, it's not like a re-envisioned, like they try to do a black version. So it's like, they've done stuff like that. They try to make it like, no, it's not a re-envisioned one. It's just, you're supposed to believe it's just regular Batman, but all the actors just happen to be black, right? If you had a problem with that, you would have to use a serious word. Woke is no longer a serious word. The conservatives have taken over that word, and it is now a childish, nonsensical, meaningless word. That means either I'm a predator preying on other people trying to manipulate them as a propagandist, or I'm one of the victims of a predator, and I fell for the game, right? So if you want to have that conversation, you have to use a different word, right? You got to use a different word. Otherwise, you're going to affiliate yourself with the nonsense. And that's the issue that I have.
This is the way I look at it. Imagine there was a time where there was a word called fraudology, which was used for, there were some groups of people that were using scientific principles to justify their scams. So the stuff that we're saying was actually false, inaccurate, and it was all scams, basically. So a bunch of people start recognizing this tactic and they start calling it fraudology. Right? So the word is used for a legitimate thing. Now imagine a bunch of flat earthers start using as a deliberate tactic, using the word fraudology. Anytime they get attacked, anytime you challenge them with science, peer-reviewed studies, or anything that challenges the arguments that they're making, imagine that they start saying fraudology. And they just start using it randomly. Like any argument, anytime, someone presses them, it's like, fraudology, you're talking this fraudology stuff, right? So the word is basically meaningless, and they're using it as a deliberate manipulation tactic. They know what they're doing. They're purposely creating this word, basically repurposing it, making it toxic, and then associating their critics with that word. Their critics are all fraudologists, right? And when you consider the audience that a flat earther targets, the type of person with the mentality that would fall for flat earther content, and you consider that this tactic is designed for those type of people. When you see people who are not in that community, who should know better, who are walking around, like get on TV and they're like, so there's somebody who's not in the flat earther community, they're not involved in this at all. They claim they're neutral or whatever it is. And then first thing gets out of their mouth on TV, this fraudology stuff. And it's kind of like, even if the word fraudology at one point in time had a true meaning that was valid, it no longer does. They have completely taken over this word fraudology. So anyone using that word should either be someone who is one of the parasites using it to manipulate people, or one of their victims. And you got to think, if you're not a flat earther type, why would you fall for a tactic meant for those type of people? And that's kind of the way I look at it with this the woke stuff. This woke trick that they're using, the type of people that they're targeting with it, not too bright. So if you're not their target demographic and you're also falling for it,
grown adults should not be complaining about or talking about this is woke and that is woke. And the minute I see somebody go on a talk show, interview, whatever, the minute I hear woke come out their mouth, man, I got zero respect for you, man. Grown ass, 30 years old, 40 years old. Man, the problem is this wokeness. Every time we woke. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell.